Okay, so now we're moving on to how we sequence the track. This is the track fully sequenced from an earlier version. So what I'm going to do is talk you through how I sequence. The first thing I do is always leave a minute of silence at the beginning. This saves time when moving huge chunks of audio like this. If I need to move left rather than moving everything right, it's generally just a very useful sort of thing to remember. So when I'm sequencing, I try and make things sound as organic as possible. So bring things in with filters or volumes rather than just chucking in whole complete new sort of musical elements. If we just listen to the beginning of the track, you can see the first thing I've brought in is the field recording with a filter. And I've tried to bring the kicks in with a filter on. So as you can see here, there's an auto filter on the high kick and an auto filter on the low kick, just to make things sound slightly more musical rather than just bringing in a pounding kick straight from the off. There's not really any hard and fast rule with sequencing. You can either sort of bring things in on the grid, which is slightly more mathematical, slightly less soulful, and will make things sound a bit more regimented, or you can just bring things in when they feel right. And as there's quite a lot of movement in the track, with reverbs and delays and things like this, as you can see here, it's a lot easier to sequence because there's already more information. So rather than just sort of doing a volume drop or building something up with volume, you can see there's pieces of audio that have been doubled up. There's pieces of audio where reverbs are opening up and closing off. And these give you opportunities when sequencing to bring things in or drop things out. Another trick I like to do when I'm sequencing is if you see in the drop in the track, for instance here, a good thing to do is basically put a high pass filter on this entire section. So we just take the frequency, and this means that when it drops back in, it drops in with a bit more of a sort of thump, and you get a bit more of a dynamic between the two. Because when you start sequencing and mixing down the track, basically you want to try and get as many dynamics into the track as possible. So the loud bits sound louder, the quiet bits sound quieter, filter drops are slightly more accentuated, etc. And because when you're compressing at the end, you're actually losing a lot of dynamics. So you've almost got to over exaggerate the dynamics in the track. So if you're doing a filter drop, really push the filter up, because later on when you compress it, the filter drop won't sound anywhere near as effective. So in this case, I bring the filter up over this section, and then when it comes back in, just arch it down like that. And you can hear the difference quite clearly. So that dynamic's working a lot better. So you can do that kind of thing through the most of the track. So for instance, in drops like this, you can just copy and paste that filter drop there. You can do it again here, and at various other points in the track where you want to bring a dynamic in, where you might be dropping a kick or something similar. Apart from that, really, it's about sort of bringing things in when they feel natural. So because we've got 3 hat patterns here, you want to sort of keep things back, especially with techno. You don't want to sort of give the game away, as you haven't got many musical elements in which to play with, like a chorus and a verse or a bridge, like a traditional song. So you want to hold things back and tease things in like this, where you're actually cutting bits of audio up into tiny little slithers and sort of using them to accentuate the groove and to sort of introduce things in later. And then finally, our vocal comes in, which is still a bit loud actually. And generally most tracks are between sort of 6 and 9 minutes, I suppose, but generally I try and keep things between 750, because if you're going onto vinyl, you go much over 750, you start to lose volume. The other thing to remember when sequencing is like we did earlier in this demonstration, looking at the bussing and how to get movement into the mix using filters and things like that. So when you're sequencing, you can record for long periods like this, where to introduce the hi-hats or the rides, you could bring them in and out of the mix, tease them in and out with filters and delays until you're happy with where they're sitting in the mix.